So is it just infighting? Or is it important to be exposing people that are misguiding people and leading people down the wrong path, a counterproductive path? People like Cenk Uygur. It's not infighting at all. You have to be on the same side in order for it to be infighting. We're going to break that all down here today. But first, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, share this video so you can help independent media grow. My name is Franco and you're watching Frank Analysis. And also, make sure you follow me on Rockfin. You can sign up and create a free account. Subscribing to my channel for $10 a month also really helps. You don't have to subscribe to my channel. You can also subscribe to other independent content creators on there. And then you can get the premium content of everybody who is on Rockfin. YouTube has officially demonetized me, so the best way that you can support me is by following me in alternative platforms like Rockfin, like Odyssey, or donating to any of the links that are below. So like I said, it's not infighting. It's not infighting because you have to be on the same side in order for it to be infighting. There's some people who think that they're, that they're on the right side as you, on the same side as you. But usually those people are audience members. People with big platforms. They're different. They have agendas to fill. A lot of them may be doing this consciously, others may be doing it unconsciously. But Cenk Uygur pretty much revealed it himself, and Jimmy Dore was breaking this down when he was obliterating him in that 1 hour clip that he just did, showing how Cenk Uygur pretty much did everything but admit that Jimmy Dore was right about forced to vote, because he's so upset that the squad members aren't forcing the vote on $15 minimum wage. I mean, come on, it's politics 101, but the reason why Cenk Uygur doesn't want to be so harsh on the squad, even in that video, is because he wants to maintain access to them. He wants them to keep coming on his show. And him pretending like, oh, I'm burning my bridges. He's not actually fighting. He doesn't get it. He's telling you to still be nice to the squad. You're not going to get anything done by being nice to them. And I said that some people might be doing it unconsciously. Like, think about it like this. People like Kyle Kalinske, Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report, David Dole of the Rational National, and other people who are associated with TYT, they were able to grow their channel to 100K, 200K, 300K, almost 1 million. People like Sam Cedar who just passed 1 million. They were able to grow their channel with the popularity of Bernie Sanders, and by spreading having all these positive videos about Bernie Sanders, saying that, oh, we have our savior here, he's going to save us all. We finally are going to have a progressive. We have to champion this guy. We have to support this guy. They picked up so many subscribers. They became so successful because of that. And so they think that if they're going to be criticizing those people that are spawning off of Bernie Sanders, people like AOC and the rest of the squad members, who when they were running for office, they had them on. They were cheering for them. They were protecting them from Republicans and corporate Democrats that would criticize them. And so these people, because they were treated as these saviors, they built a fan base. And now that fan base is subscribed to people like Kyle Kalinske, the Young Turks, Mike Figueredo. And they might be afraid. Like people like Kyle, Mike, everybody at TYT, they might be afraid that if they criticize them too harshly, that they're going to lose their fan base. They're going to lose subscribers for being honest. Or maybe they're just tricking themselves also subconsciously, like making excuses for the squad, for their incompetence. And so because they can't realize that, it's up to other people to be exposing them. Because if we don't do it, like I said in the beginning of the video, we're going to give them legitimacy. And we're going to be allowing these people, these TYTs, to be misguiding people down a counterproductive path into supporting people like AOC and the squad members who defend corporate Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, who refuse to withhold their vote because they don't want to shake things up in Congress. And by them doing that, if they're protecting corporate Democrats, then they are protecting corporations. And if TYT and all these other people are making all these excuses for the incompetence of the squad members, then they're also protecting corporations. And therefore they're not on our side. But those are people with platforms. Those are the informers. I don't want you to confuse these people with their audience members. The audience members are people who are still discovering truths. So are I mean, don't get me wrong. The informers are also, some of them might still be discovering truths, but the audience members, think back to when you first found out, like became more politically involved and started informing yourself. Like at one point, I mean, I will say, I was watching TYT. They were a gateway for me. They were the only media that I knew that was saying positive things about Bernie Sanders back in late 2015 and 2016. Most of the people who watch these videos on YouTube are people who are between 25 to 35 years old. We also have a lot of Zoomers that are discovering channels like Vosh, all these other bread tubers, channels like The Majority Report, and they're going to be misguided. If we don't hold these people who protect politicians, who protect corporate Democrats, who protect corporations, if we don't hold those people accountable, then we're going to allow those people that discover these channels to be misguided. And when Barack Obama was president, they weren't really paying attention, or they were paying like slightly attention. And the power of the mainstream media to make us think that everything was okay is just, it's unmatched. It's so powerful. Everywhere you go, like a restaurant, a bar, they're playing mainstream media. You go to a grocery store, you see mainstream articles like Time Magazine, mainstream journal outlets. When you go to a bus, when you're using public transportation, these ads are everywhere. Mainstream media ads. It's been like that for our entire lives. And so be patient with other people who are like you, who are in their political journey and discovering themselves. What you can do is to not take things personal with them and to just give them some facts. Tell them about how TYT takes corporate money. Give some criticism, like legit criticism, about Kyle Kalinske and Humanist Report, about how they make so many excuses for the squad and how they don't feel the urgency about the people who are suffering in America, how they won't even fight for Medicare for all. These people assumed that things were going to get better under Joe Biden because they thought, because they weren't as politically informed during the Obama years, they thought everything was fine because that's what the mainstream media was making it out to be. They were making it out to be like as if everything was fine. But now look at what Biden is doing. He's backtracking on all his promises. Look at this clip of Kamala Harris.
Trump administration overlooks the fact that what is happening with the detention of these children, the circumstances by which they arrived, is a human rights abuse being committed by the United States government. And so we are here to stand up and say that we are not going to allow this to happen, not on our watch. I will tell you, when elected, the first thing I'm going to do, one of the first things, is to shut down these private detention facilities. Just shut them down. Because let's be clear about what's going on here. There are people who are literally profiting off of the incarceration of children. Just reflect on that for a moment. There are people who are profiting off of the incarceration of children.
If she was actually serious about that, about what she just said in that video, then she would be pressuring Joe Biden to shut down those cages. But she's not doing that because she wasn't serious. Joe Biden wasn't serious. Anybody else who was in the primary that receives corporate money wasn't serious. Bernie Sanders was also not serious because he's a team player for the Democrats, and he's been that way ever since he made a deal with the Democrats that he wouldn't oppose them as long as they let him run as an independent. As long as these people are representing corporations, they're not going to be genuine. And as long as people are more interested in their career and in their fame, which is like the squad, they're not going to be genuine. We had 8 years of Obama and things got worse, and that's why we got Donald Trump. What do you think is going to happen with 4, 8, or 10 years under Biden/Harris? because we know that Biden is going to step down. We're going to have Kamala Harris. In the 8 years that we had Obama, I can count on five on my hand the good things that he did that really weren't that good, and I'm going to tell you why. The good things that he did: improving relations with Cuba, social rights for the LGBTQ plus community, the Affordable Care Act, the Paris Climate Agreement, and the Iran nuclear deal. But like I said, are these things actually that good? The root problem is still there, right? Money in politics, this capitalist system that we have. Our government is going to be representing corporations, and so they're going to do things that are not going to hurt them. And if they can't hurt them, then it's going to benefit it's not going to benefit the people. It's not going to benefit us, the working class people. It's not going to benefit us. In fact, the corporations became more powerful under Barack Obama. And so they create this facade as if to make people think, working class people think, that it's other working class people that are the enemy. And that's what TYT does. And that's what other channels that are like TYT does. They make their audience think that the enemy is the racists, and it's people who vote for Republicans, and that they're just stupid and we need to be fighting these stupid people. Well, that's BS. We also need to be fighting the liberals. We also need to be fighting the Democrats, because they represent those corporations and they're not doing anything that's going to benefit our lives. So let me get to this, what I said about those 5 things. So with Cuba, as long as we have capitalists in power, Cuba as a socialist country will always be a threat to them, to these capitalists. If relationships improve while these capitalist oligarchs are still in power, it might be because they are trying to ease their way back into regime change and turning Cuba back into an asset for U.S. corporations. Now for the LGBTQ rights. Are the lives of LGBTQ plus, the LGBTQ plus community, did it actually improve financially? Socially, it's been more accepting, but do we have to thank Democrats for that? Or is that something that the people were trying to do already? Remember, Barack Obama ran against, when he was running for president, he ran against marriage equality. That's something that he adopted after, because it became so popular, it was so demanding, and it doesn't really threaten the corporations, right? It doesn't threaten them. But their standard of living, especially for minority LGBTQ plus community people, it's not getting any better. They're suffering just like us. They're not getting that stimulus. They're not getting a $15 minimum wage is laughable. Let's set that straight. And back when we had the $7 minimum wage, like back then, that's equivalent to about $24 today. And you can go look at a calculator for that, an inflation calculator, to confirm that. And also, if we have like Republicans in power, look, it's so popular right now, protecting the LGBTQ plus community. The Supreme Court is not going to change that. We got LGBTQ plus rights, like social rights, under a conservative majority Supreme Court. Now the Affordable Care Act, that was approved by the insurance companies. Obama promised us universal health care, and he could have gave it to us because he had the majority of the House, the Senate, and he was president, and he was a Democrat. But because they all represent corporations, they kept making excuses after excuses. And I have a video where I explain what they would do and the little games that these Democrats during the Obama presidency would make, and how it's so similar to what the squad is doing, with how they're saying, oh, we can't really force the vote because we got to wait for this and wait until when? Until they lose power, and then if the cycle begins again, oh, we got to vote for these Republicans out so that we can give you the good things. And then when they're in power, they don't give you the good things. They say that it's not the right time. Then the Paris Climate Agreement, which is just an acknowledgement that climate change is real. Wow, what a step. But that system, the capitalist system, is still there. We're still going to be over exploiting resources for the fossil fuel company and for these other industries that are destroying our environment. The Iran deal. What's the point if we're still supporting Iran's enemy and the apartheid state of Israel? Netanyahu keeps reminding and pressuring Biden about how Iran is such an enemy. and that it's such a threat. Oh, we need to take precaution. The tensions are still going to be there. And look at who Biden appointed in his administration. All these pro-Israel people. Even progressives like AOC, Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bauman, they're horrible on Israel and on Iran. Jamal Bowman was saying that he supports Israel. Ilhan Omar said she doesn't support a weapons embargo on Israel, but she does support one on Iran. So the changes that we got from the last Democratic president, which already looked like tweaks around the edges, were just illusions. And the squad is an illusion. They're there to make you think that we are succeeding and that progress is being made, even though it's the same shit. They're not doing anything. They're making excuses just like the Democrats would make excuses under the Obama administration. And then people like TYT tell you that everything is fine. And we need to expose that because everything is not fine. Millions of people are losing their homes. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their health care. They're suffering. And we have not gotten a stimulus. It's been a year now. What have the progressives done for us? Vote for the CARES Act, the biggest upward transfer of wealth in human history. And then now look, they're not pressuring people. They're not pressuring their colleagues for the bare minimum of a $15 minimum wage, which is still not livable in today's standards. Pretty much what's going on right now with this whole situation, if you haven't heard yet, is that Democrats are saying that parliamentarian has more power than Congress, and that Congress has even though Congress has power to fire the parliamentarians and rehire other people. The Democrats are using the parliamentary as an excuse for not forcing not forcing a $15 minimum wage in the new COVID relief bill. And Cenk understands that. He understands that, and he saw the negative response that he got with forced to vote when he was against it, because he takes corporate money, and he knew that he was going to be upsetting his corporate donors for stepping out of line, and he knew that he was going to lose access to the squad if he was going to be supporting forced to vote, and if he was going to be telling people to go protest against the squad to try to force them to force a vote on Medicare for all and withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi. It's a miscalculation that he made. Same thing with all these other people that were telling us to not force the vote on Medicare for all. Also, the same thing for people who were supporting forced to vote, but then afterwards we're making a bunch of excuses for the squad members and all the other Democrats that ran on Medicare for all. Now, here's the thing about people like TYT and other pop political people on YouTube, is that they give you a little bit of truth, like a little dose of reality, by telling you one thing that the mainstream media won't tell you. And that's that a big problem is that there's money in politics, and that this restricts some politicians from fighting for the people and passing progressive policies. However, it's less of a bitter pill if it was somebody, okay, again, remember, we've all been brainwashed for so many years. It's less of a bitter pill for somebody like that, who's still a liberal, who's still brainwashed by the mainstream media, to hear only that, and then to hear TYT still repeat other mainstream media talking points, like them saying that the only problems in our country, besides money in politics, is all these racists and all these people that vote for Republicans. And then they keep repeating mainstream media talking points about our foreign policy, repeating things about Russiagate, repeating things that the mainstream media says about China, about Syria. It's a lot easier for these people to swallow that pill than for them to hear somebody like me, or hear somebody like Steve Poikonen from Slow News Day, or the Combo Couch, or Nico House, right? Like, imagine if they took that giant leap. That's too much for them to accept. Over time, they may realize that TYT is full of shit, and all these other channels that are similar to TYT are full of shit. But in order for them to realize that, sometimes it can be on their own, but what can accelerate that is if there's more channels that are like this, that point out the bullshit that they're doing. We're trying to increase consciousness. We're trying to lead people on the right path. That's why when we expose to people like TYT, the best thing that you can do is to not make things personal. Just tell people facts. Like if you keep things personal and like say like, oh no, like you're stupid for listening to TYT, blah blah blah, like that's gonna create like resistance. That'll create infighting. That'll keep people resistant from listening to what you're saying. It looks sort of like a child trying to resist what a parent when they're telling their child what to do. Sometimes the child may want to rebel because they're like, I don't like how my parent is telling me like what to do. Like I want to do what I want to do. I feel like my freedom is being restricted. So it's counterproductive when you start fighting like that with those people. Like it's different if you're presenting objective information, but when you take it personal and start calling them names, then you're being counterproductive. You have to tell people, look at this information. Here are some facts that debunk all the claims that people on TYT are saying. Like, look at these facts that are being presented by the Gray Zone, by Mint Press News, by the Black Agenda Report, by this Medium article, by Caitlin Johnstone. Look at how this information debunks all these claims that are being presented by TYT, and look at how similar the things that TYT states is to the mainstream media. Are you going to be trusting that? People who give you the news saying things that are similar to the mainstream media, who protect and represent the corporate class, the people that we're supposed to be fighting against. So that's why calling out people like Cenk is so important. Okay, the TYT, The Hill, David Pakman, Majority Report, they all have Google contracts. And so their videos get favored by the algorithm, and that's why they're able to pick up so many subscribers. And so they're going to attract a bunch of normies who are still brainwashed, but then they get a little bit of a dose of that truth. Like I mentioned, me and other commentators and journalists like me are gonna have a more difficult time reaching these people because we don't have a Google contract. Our videos are not going to be supported by the algorithm. Our videos are going to be suppressed. You see that my channels like mine are demonetized. They just hit Hardlens Media hard. They can't upload videos anymore. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm going to have Kit Gabello on. It's up to you, the audience members, to understand that there's these normies out there that we need to help educate. We need to help raise their consciousness. We need them to find channels like this so they can be exposed to the truth, so that they can be exposed to more objective information. So when you encounter people who still think that we need to vote for the lesser evil, like Joe Biden, for harm reduction, what should you tell them? We say, here's what we're going to do. We do what we're telling AOC and the squad. We do what we're telling them to do, which is what during Force the Vote, we were telling them to withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi until she agrees to put Medicare for all up for a vote. It's Politics 101. Withhold your vote until you are promised the things that you need. And so don't vote for any politician at all until they agree to give you the things that you need. And the rest of the working class people need. Withhold your vote until they agree to stop taking corporate money. Until they agree that they will listen to your demands and work with you to put an end to this horrific system that we have and that has been going on for years. Don't vote for these corporatists. Apply public pressure. That's how we're going to get change. Withhold your vote if they act and speak in platitudes like AOC and the other squad members. And if they're illiterate on foreign policy like the squad members, and if they say they're not going to go against their party. As a matter of fact, withhold your vote from anybody whoever tries to run as a Democrat ever again. Withhold your vote if they're not activists. And legit activists, not like an AOC activist who shows up one day and then disappears for a long time. And then nothing fundamentally changes. And she only does it for clout because she only goes to the popular protests and ignores other issues like Line 3 and the North Carolina oil pipeline leak. Prioritize on public pressure, on organizing, on building communities online and on the ground. Informing people as much as you can. The answer is not in electoral politics. It's in public pressure and public organizing. Remember to be objective. Don't make it personal, and stay informed.